Auken War? A Cannon War, excuse me. August 20th. Oh. The minutes from August 28th. All good. It's okay. Is there a second? Senator Saravia? Okay. Any discussion? Great. Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to special presentations. Our first one is the revised standard class meeting pattern strategic scheduling team. And it looks like Diane is here. Good morning. Welcome. You can just press the button on the microphone. It should turn on.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks very much, President Hadjialou, for the invitation. And I appreciate everyone's time today. I'm hoping everyone had a chance to read this in advance, and I understand you have a lot of reading material, so if you didn't, it's okay. I'll just mention briefly what we're talking about. Essentially, the strategic scheduling team has a subcommittee that has been looking at class meeting patterns. And one of the things that we discover as we look at it is that we have a little bit of an uneven distribution of our enrollment and our offering of sections throughout the day. And in fact, right now our enrollment shows that we have in the early morning period, which is sort of now, right, that starts at 8 a.m. and goes till roughly 9:15 in our general 3-unit lecture courses, has only about 40% of the normal use of space and use of sections at that time of day. And so that means that we're cramming more and more of the prime time schedule into that 9:30 to 3:15 time block, which makes it difficult on a lot of things, right? Difficult to get your classes sometimes too. For us, it also means that we're not using our space necessarily as efficiently as possible. On the other hand, we're more concerned about what makes sense for students, right? And so what is driving the reasons for 8 a.m. not being popular? Our classes not being offered, our faculty not able to get here, our students not able to get here. And we're not sure all of those factors, but we wanted to propose to try doing a move to an 8:30 time slot. And one of the reasons for that is that most of our incoming students have been in high school starting at 8:30, right? Since that started with the governor's executive order a couple of years ago. And so that 8:30 start, there was a lot of research behind it. It was about, getting more sleep, et cetera, right? Which we hope occurs. And so we want to kind of be thinking about whether we could be consistent with that as a university and if it makes sense. We fortunately have time within our schedule to do this. And the reason we have time to do this is that when we moved to our new schedule pattern in fall 2009, at that time when we moved to a Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday pattern for most of the lecture courses, we left a window at the end of the day. And what that means is that the last class was the daytime class was ending at 3:15, and then our sort of evening classes would start at 4 p.m., and so we'd have a 4 to 7 and a 7 to 10 block typically in the evenings. So we have a window from 3:15 to 4 p.m. that gives us a little bit of wiggle room. So if we wanted to move the schedule to 8:30, we have the time in which to do that and still allow 15 minutes of passing time between classes that end at 3:45 and start at 4. So we're going around talking to lots of people. We've met with, kind of gone through the administrative process. We've met with provost council and deans and associate deans and department chairs and all kinds of folks administratively. And we're meeting with faculty. And we started going through the faculty governance groups. And in fact, we're going to the faculty senate this week with this. And then, of course, we are interested in hearing from students. And we've met with a few groups of students. We met with I believe it's called the Sports Council. Is that correct? Yeah. Sport clubs, group. So they were fantastic and gave us good input last week. We're meeting with selected other groups of students. We're meeting with groups of EOP students. We've met with the Black Scholars Matter students. We're meeting with some of the Bridge to the Future scholars. And then we are providing a couple of questions for the AS survey that Paige has kindly offered to allow us to do. So we have 2 very short questions to add to the survey, which we'll send to you tomorrow. So I've spoken a lot, but I'm curious about your thoughts. I'm curious about what you think about this idea. Would you come for class at 8:30 if it was offered then as opposed to 8 a.m.? Any questions or concerns that you might have about the ending time at 3:45? Does it pose problems for transit and things like that?
Hi. I'm not sure if this is working. Is it? Oh yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say that I think it's very considerate about classes because I did take an 8 a.m. last semester and it was really difficult because it was peak traffic hour and I live about 30 minutes away. So to be able to maybe push it back a little bit and give people that are commuters at least a little bit of wiggle room is really nice because it's all over LA, like not just in the valley but downtown. I know people that come from like Long Beach and Santa Clarita, it's like peak hour. Right. So being able to at least have that 30-minute grace period between for traffic, just unexpected accidents or unexpected traffic is just very considerate. So I think it's a really good idea and I really hope it's able to get through.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, it also works because I live in housing and there's over 3,000 students that also live in housing. Mm-hmm. And the problem that we always run into is that there's only one shuttle in the morning. So it's like, if you do move those classes to 8:30, it gives people more leeway to get to class on time. Cause it's like, okay, well, I have to wake up at 7 a.m., but then, usually it takes 30 minutes to get there. But when there's only one shuttle running, it's more like an hour as opposed to 30 minutes. So if people continue to wake up at the time they wake up, they still have 30 minutes to get to class on time. So it works.
Thank you.
Okay, hi. I feel like it's very considerate. I know that when I was in high school, like it changed to 8:30. And I know that I've read like certain articles about our research saying that our brain is mostly awake by that time. I know that we probably have to like wake up at 7 a.m. still to do our stuff before that. But I feel like our brain is more awake at during that time to be able to study and pay attention more correctly. So I feel like it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Yes.
I'm kind of shocked that students don't want to get up at 7:30 for classes. No. Are there any other advantages to this, Diane, that you could share with the students so they understand?
Sure, it does give us more flexibility in a couple of ways too. There are students who actually do come to 7 a.m. classes. We have a handful. We do have some fully employed students who would like to do a 7 a.m. class in the College of Business, right? And right now they have to come at 6:30 or whatever to do that, or it conflicts with another class. And so if we did a 7 a.m. class, you could do 7 to 8:15, which would be nice. The other thing is the parts of the schedule that we're showing here on the graphic are really the 3-unit lecture courses, which make up a large percent of our lecture classes. But we have a lot of other sections that are 1-unit, 2-unit, 4-unit, 5-unit classes that are have particular times that they can be scheduled within. We ask that they start at the same time as other classes and things too. This would give us some flexibility on some of that. You could run, for instance, a 4-unit class that started a little early or whatever. And so there's a little bit more wiggle room there, I think. So it's a great question, Patrick. Thank you.
And this is the Senate's only been to start our third meeting. Is this something that you want the Senate to take action on, to say, ooh, we love this idea, or ooh, no, we want to come at 6 a.m. or?
Well, it would be lovely to have a recommendation from the Senate. That would be fantastic. I'm gathering all of this information. My partner's co-chair, Paul Lazzaroni, who's Associate Vice President for Undergraduate Studies, and myself, as well as our Chief of Operations, Ken Luna, are kind of leaving shoe leather all over campus, going to different groups and gathering all the information. And so that would be lovely to have certainly. So thank you, Patrick, for the suggestion. We certainly are taking notes on the feedback that we have from people, gathering that, but would love to hear something more formal as well. So thank you.
That should not be a problem. Also, too, I think something that they addressed at the USU BOD meeting was even for our parent scholars who have to drop off kids in the morning, let's say, it allows them to be able to drop off the kids either at school, childcare, daycare, and then still be able to go to their morning classes, which is really nice and helpful. So I
was going to say, I did hear that also, of course, from faculty as well, right? That we have faculty that have the same issues. And so we had parent scholars and other settings bring that up as well, that we're very happy about that. The other end of it that we have heard, and I just want to be sort of honest about this and some of the feedback I've received so far, is there has been concern expressed about the opposite end of the day. So we're worried about getting here in the morning, and I appreciate that. I was a commuter student to the school in last century. Anyway, a long time ago. And I came all the way from Newbury Park every morning and 5 days a week. And when you're a science major, you're here 5 days a week, right? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yes. And so I recognize that early morning piece is very important, but also the end of the day, if you need to get to work and things like that. So one of the things that we've heard is the concern about that afternoon traffic, that the 3:45 ending time gets you into the real mess of that late afternoon, early evening driving. So there's trade-offs there, right? And hopefully, if the schedule's more balanced, you could take an early morning class and not be here till 3:45. So we'll see how that works out.
Absolutely. And I actually am a Newbury Park native as well, and
right.
High alum. So yes. All right. Any further questions, comments? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful that this is at least on the radar. I was wondering, based on approval, how fast or how slow would we be able to implement this after everything's approved?
That's a great question, and I should have said that in my introduction, so thank you for that. We are attempting to get all of our consultation done this month to the extent we can, to bring a recommendation to the president at the beginning of October. And the reason we're doing that is that we put out our schedule building for the next year in October. So for fall 2024, at the end of October, we'll be sending out our schedule building instructions and opening up the system. And so the ability to have this to the president and her potential approval for implementation would be for fall 2024.
Any further questions or comments? Alrighty, seeing none. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And yes, those questions will be on the survey. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day.
Hopefully we'll be able to sleep in soon. Alrighty, we'll now move on to our second special presentation, which is the student programming and resources. We have Christina Bernstein from the Alumni Relations here. Welcome. Good morning.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Morning. My name is Christina Bernstein. I am the Career and Professional Development Associate in our Alumni Relations Office. A little bit about what I do and what that means. I oversee all of our career and professional development programming and resources, and oversee our alumni volunteers who want to come back and give back to our student base in career and professional development. So resume reviewing, speed mentoring, and I'll mention some of a few highlight events and programs that we're going to be having this fall semester. So first up is our student and alumni mentoring platforms, Ask a Matador and Black Matadors Connect. So what this is a free online mentorship platform. You can go to the next slide, actually. Thank you. So how it works, it's so you guys as students, if you have any questions or you're thinking about changing your major, thinking about trying to get an internship, what's next, graduation's coming soon, or anything that pertains to career, professional development, and your CSUN journey, you're able to go on either Ask a Matador or Black Matadors Connect. Black Matadors Connect is slightly different, specifically for Black students to Black CSUN alumni Matadors. So that's the only difference between those two platforms. But you submit a question. Our AI on Protopia will send those out to all of our appropriate alumni who are registered as mentors on both of those platforms. They'll receive an email and then they're prompted to respond. Most of our alumni mentors will usually reach out and say, hey, I'd love to connect. Let's have a Zoom meeting, coffee, phone meeting. the purpose and the objective is to really build that Matador to Matador mentorship pipeline. Our alumni who've been working in their industries for 5, 10, 20 plus 50 years to help you guys as you are getting your CSUN journey on its feet and really stepping into the workforce. So that's a little bit about those programs. And let's go to the next one. And so I really wanted just to share this with you because I think there's a little bit of lack of knowledge of the program, and we'd like to have you guys utilize it because it is a great resource. We have alumni who are waiting to help you. So on the presentation, I've included both of the links for both Ask a Matador and Black Matadors Connect. So you can see those as well. At the end of this presentation, I will leave my business card at the table at the front. So if you have any other further questions, want to know anything else, I'll leave those for you too as well. So those are 2 alumni to student mentorship platforms. And I forgot to mention, all of our programs are free and you can use them unlimitedly. So that's also a big thing too. So, and we can go to the next one. So first up, our second up is our Corporate Connect program. So this is our corporate site tour program. This is probably our most popular program, but I wanted to just alert you as we have 3 that are slated for this fall semester. So what I do is I identify alumni working in specific industries or a super corporate entity. So we have one coming up at Warner Brothers Studios this year. We have one coming up at the law offices of Perkins Co. So we identify an alumni who agree to host students to their workplace, and that usually includes a short tour of the facility. Then they provide a lunch for the students attending and also a Q&A panel. So there's an opportunity for the students attending to connect with that alumni or multiple alumni that are working at that facility to get that networking and build that one-to-one mentorship and hopefully learn about their internship opportunities, their hiring opportunities, and any other resources you can gain from that alumni in that industry. Hopefully a desired workplace for you guys. So like I mentioned, I have 3 slated coming up this semester, and they are all on our CSUN alumni events page. They'll be happening in late October and early mid-November, just to gauge that for you. We're still working on all the registration links and everything like that, so those are still to come. But as I mentioned, I'll leave my business card for any of you who have follow-up questions. Yes, and we can head to the next. And these are just some of the corporate entities we've gone to in the past couple of years. As you see, CSUN has some heavy hitters and located at some pretty amazing corporate entities. So I really would like the word to be spread to our students that they can utilize this amazing event and connect with their alumni working in these various fields. Thank you. And of course, our social media. I'd love for you guys to stay connected with what CSUN alumni are doing, and so that you guys can take full advantage of these student programs and resources. I think for students, they hear the word CSUN alumni and they go, no, I'm not there yet, so I don't need to do that. But we do have programs for you. We are asking alumni to volunteer their time to mentor and provide advice and hopefully get you in an internship, a job, or just build that Matador network. So CSUN alumni and all of our social media accounts. And that's it for me today. If you have any questions. Yes, go ahead. Hi.
Hi. So I think I've used a sort of platform where Alumni Association was on LinkedIn and we were able to connect. It has been very hard for me as an international student to connect with an alumni who is also international because every time we try to look for opportunities, it requires you to have a green card or like citizenship. So when selecting those alumni who are volunteering, do you also look for like alumni who can like cater to students cater to our students like us?
Absolutely. It's for the alumni who are interested and engaged and one available, but this is good information for me as well, because as I'm reaching out to these alumni, it's always good to hear from the students. And so that will help me broaden my search to contact alumni who were international students as well. So thank you. Yeah, I will definitely now.
Thank you.
Of course. Yes, please.
I've never used this kind of site, but I'm gonna add to her. I don't know if you also have any alumni that are from DACA or non-DACA or undocumented as a whole.
Yeah, so we when we sent out the invitation for alumni to join and become mentors, it was sent out widespread to all 400,000. So it was really for them to want to, if they're engaged and would like to join and become a mentor. And it's a really low commitment. If you do have alumni who possibly are thinking about joining as a mentor on these platforms, they don't have to attend anything. They'll just get emails sporadically from our students as they submit them, and they can connect as they will. Of course. Thank you. Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I've actually used Ask a Matador, and I think it's actually a wonderful program.
Thank you.
I do have a question
Sure.
though. Are you looking into like more ways of broadening your marketing about it or advertising?
Yes, we are definitely. So we're currently building, well, right now we're currently making physical marketing collateral pieces to be printed, postcard, like on our quick copies, hard copy, and getting those out to our student resource houses, our student clubs, Greek Life, trying to get out to the career center, so other campus partners. So that's what we're currently working on right now, is getting just bulk kind of guerrilla marketing and getting those handed out and get those out to the hands of you guys to utilize. Yeah.
Any further questions, comments?
Right there.
I have a
Oh,
comment.
sorry. Yes.
No, it's okay. If any of you want this PowerPoint presentation, let me or Josie know as well.
Yeah, so you can have access to the links there and any of the social media tags or things, handles. There we go. Yeah, this is amazing. These resources are so amazing for students. And I think even us as leaders pushing those out to students when we're tabling and talking and connecting with students is so, so important and vital. Any other questions or comments? Alrighty, well, thank you so much for being here this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Awesome. So many awesome things happening this morning. I love it. We will now move on to open forum. So open forum is intended as an opportunity for any member of the public to address the Associated Student Senate regarding any issues affecting CSUN students. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes each to speak. Please sign in using the clipboard for minute recording purposes. Anyone here for open forum?
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm the marketing coordinator for Associated Students. I just wanted to have a chance to come by and say hello and introduce to anybody who didn't know me, because haven't had a chance to come in here. I just wanted to let you know that if any of you ever need explanations on how to use Basecamp, because I added, I think, most of you to Basecamp, or how to submit marketing requests, please come and see me in my office, which is right next to IT across from the student leadership office. I will be more than happy to explain that to you. It's really simple. It's really, trust me, it's simple. But yeah, if you have any questions about anything, if you send in marketing requests and want to, meet one-on-one to discuss what you want or anything like that, please, we are more than willing to discuss with you and want to make sure that your visions come true. So I just wanted to come in and introduce myself again. So thank you.
Yay, live, love, Basecamp. Any other? Oh, perfect.
It's working. Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is David Montero. I'm the Outdoor Ventures Manager, and I'm here to talk about the Western Regional Outdoor Leadership Conference that we're going to host in January, and we're also asking for supplemental funding for. Just a little bit of history about the conference. It happens once a year. Usually it happens in California University. We hosted it back in 2017, I believe. That gets kind of passed on between the different Southern California schools, sometimes in Arizona and Nevada as well. But it's a collegiate conference, professional level conference where students can come in and kind of exchange outdoor skills and do some outward networking for students that want to gain experience in the outdoor education or experiential education industry. Yeah, so they have peer-to-peer workshops where people can, network and get a lot of insight into build community within the outdoor collegiate space. What we want to do this January is kind of promote a little bit more of diversity and inclusion within the outdoor community and the outdoor space. And that's where we're going to request an additional $10,000 in supplemental funding to help pay for our keynote speaker, who I want to be Patagonia, who's an outdoor environmentalist and drag queen, who kind of promotes advocacy through activism in the outdoor space, and how to be an activist in the environmental space as well, and bring different colors and different people representing in those activist spaces. So just looking at my notes real quick. In addition to adding kind of that diversity and inclusion, we have also asked another speaker to come on Friday night, who's a deaf climber. Her name is Sonia. She's done an event for us before at our rock wall. So we're going to ask her to come in as well to kind of add to that diversity and inclusion that want to create that space here at Rolk this year. Cool, and that's all my presentation. If you have any questions for me. Yeah, if we get approval for Patagonia to come and speak, to be our keynote speaker on Saturday, we'll also open it to the general season public too to come and be a part of that presentation as well. Yeah. Cool, thank you.
That's so exciting. I was gonna ask, I'm like, wait, can I attend? Because I want to go.
Yeah, totally.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, and we will get to that supplemental request, everyone, later in the meeting. Alrighty. Anyone else here for open forum? All right, seeing none, we'll now move on to reports, starting with mine. Good morning. Happy Monday. First of all, before I move on to any report, I just want to take a moment of silence to remember those who lost their lives 22 years ago. As well as kind of the devastating events that have happened in Morocco. Yeah. All right, thank you. I'll now move on. Oh, sorry, my report. Alrighty, so I cannot believe it's already the third week of the semester. Time is already flying. But I first of all wanted to thank everyone that helped with Welcome Week and our farmers market and Meet the Clubs. Ariana, Daniel, and the phenomenal marketing team. Thank you so much, seriously. And James, IKEA, and their marketable productions team. I know they're not here, but hopefully they feel the good energy. And then Denise, Madeline, our amazing student leadership team, Tim, Kevin, Patrick, OA. I mean, seriously, everyone, I feel like just such a team effort. And thank you for making the first week back. And I guess the second week also remarkable and just memorable. So thank you. I know we didn't have Senate last week, so I kind of have a little bit of a lengthy report, but I'll try to make it short. But Josie and I had the chance to tour the Klotz Student Health Center, which was super, super nice. It is such a safe space for our students, and the staff are just so incredibly warm and understanding. And it's exciting to hear that they are bringing back their dental services this fall. So that is really, really exciting. And they are working on a couple new services that I'm really excited about. They're working on them right now. So I'm not going to mention them, but it's in the works. We also had President's Picnic that was the first week. And that was really I think that was a really successful turnout. It was so great to see, I think, greater engagement this semester. And I thought the DJ was really good. So I really enjoyed it. And hopefully the food was good too. And then myself and some of our leadership team got the chance to attend the Dodgers game. I thought it was really fun. We didn't win, but it was still a great bonding moment. Got a fun bucket out of it and pretty good food. So that's exciting. This is kind of something a little bit more important. And so I attend the Academic Technology Committee every month. And our last meeting was this past Friday. So this discussion was definitely really prevalent last year, but they're definitely continuing the discussion of AI and how it is impacting higher education. So, potentially what type of policy the university has put out as a whole, how different departments or professors feel, or if they put out a statement themselves, and also just how students, faculty, and just everyone on campus feel about it. Because there are no, 100% foolproof AI detection platforms. So this is something that they're going to remind faculty and staff of, but I'm also wanted to remind you all today too. I didn't know about this, but just to kind of put it out there. Please only use contracted platforms only. So essentially any platform that you have to log in with your CSUN ID, you're okay. Because if you do not, essentially what will happen is if you put any information in that, you have no privacy and they'll take your work or words, whatever, and use it to teach AI and better the AI system. I was surprised. So just again, make sure you're using only contracted CSUN platforms, because also you could like have an amazing report and now AI has access to it and there's no privacy there. So just be aware. So yeah, if you have any questions on that, any feedback on AI or anything you want to address or mention to me, please let me know and I can bring it back to the committee when I meet with them again. That's about it for me though. I hope you have a great week. And I'm going to pull a Cheyenne right now and leave a quote with you all. Sorry. So this is what my mom gave me a card the other day and it had this quote and it like really hit home. So years from now, you will look back and find you were growing in ways you could not see at the time. And that's from Morgan Harper Nichols. And yeah, so have a great week. Enjoy. Stay cool. I feel like it's kind of humid. So yeah, but thank you. Any questions on my report? Wonderful. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Vice President Anderson for her report.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. This is working, right? Yeah. Okay. I hope you had a good weekend and got to rest. A lot of my report is similar to Paige's because we attend a lot of the same meetings, but we got to go to the Klotz Center, which was wonderful. It was my first time there. They have a lot of great services that they offer, so make sure to share that with your constituents if they ever ask you about it. We also met with Cindy Greco, who is the Senior Advisor for Student Advisement. A little bit repetitive, but she is really great. They're doing a lot of great work to improve advisement. And if you ever have any issues you want to bring up, you can definitely contact her. Committees start this week, so we will be electing chairs in a few minutes. Internals on Tuesday, externals on Wednesday, and university is on Thursday. If you have any questions about that, you can ask the Attorney General or myself. I'm working with athletics on a bunch of different projects. We're still confirming the details, and hopefully I will have some concrete plans to share with you all next week, but it's a very exciting partnership, and I'm happy that it's working out. Another project I'm working on is Feedback Initiative Week, which is has a similar feel to the food survey that was done last year, where we're going out to students, asking them for feedback, but it's more broad and it's more just about how they feel at CSUN. But if you want to mark in your calendars, it will be the week of October 2nd. And then lastly, there are lots of open Senate positions and committee positions. So if you have friends that are interested in leadership, make sure to share those with them. We really want to emphasize recruitment. And then on that note, sorority recruitment was this weekend. We had nearly double the amount of women going through recruitment as last year. So that's really good for our campus that we're having more engagement with student activities. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for Vice President Anderson? Great. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to Chief of Staff Ryan's report.
Good morning, everyone. I am pleased to be here. Just getting started with my report. I was recently appointed to the Academic Grievance and Grade Appeal Board. I will be the AS student member there. My first meeting will be next Monday, so I will have more to share the following week. As for cabinet, we have officially decided to hold our cabinet meetings on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. We also started establishing working groups to achieve our goals across campus that our cabinet believes should be at priority. On a personal note, I would like to put an emphasis this week on mental health. I know everyone's getting adjusted to your schedules, being back in the groove of school and academics. And I'd just like to remind everyone that your small victories definitely count and they lead to your success. So just remind yourself that your successes are your successes and they're great. You matter. As for reports for our cabinet, our Chair of Legislative Affairs, Cholera, her Senate report regards Lobby Corps recruitment. So if you have any members, any students that would like to be a part of her committee, please reach out to her. Also, the CSU Board of Trustees will be voting on Wednesday. Therefore, public comment for that Board of Trustees meeting on Wednesday will be tomorrow at 9 a.m. Registration actually closes today at 12 though, so please reach out to her if you're interested in attending public comment, whether it's virtually or in person. Keep in mind, AS leaders are extremely highly recommended to speak. I actually spoke last time and it was a very serious topic, but clearly we want to make sure that student trustees understand the student perspective. As for the AS Assistant Chair of Finance, Ponce, she has mentioned that if anyone likes to be part of finance committee, to please reach out to her, or of course our chair of finance, Tran, regarding that committee, as well as moving forward with our chief of justice, Joshua. She mentioned that judicial court has yet to start, but one thing is that if anyone like to be a justee for her court, feel free to reach out to her. Regarding chair of elections, Usaris, if you're interested in being a representative for the elections committee, feel free to do so, reach out to her, or if you're not allowed to run, just know an important thing to keep in mind is that you are not allowed to run for any positions in the spring if you are a part of the elections committee. So please keep that in mind if you're interested in being the Senate representative. Also, she is currently accepting any elections committee applications. So if you're interested, or if you know any friends alongside of you that are interested in joining this committee, please reach out to her. They're under the CSUN AS website under leadership open positions, or you can also just email her directly. As for the assistant chair of elections, she's also very interested in focusing on anyone interested in her committee as well. Everyone would like to just make sure, as Josie mentioned, recruitment is highly important right now to make sure we can have the team and the capacity to get things done per committee. Our chair of diversity and inclusion has nothing to report. She will hopefully be back next week. Good wishes to her. And then also chair of communications, just remember that today after Senate, we will be having our group photos and any introduction videos that we have. At the same time, remember to please already choose your headshots ready to go for this week. Thank you. That would be all for my report.
Awesome. Any questions for Chief of Staff? Great. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to Chair of Finance, Tran, for her report.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm going to start by sharing off our account totals or our account balances. Within our STAR funding, we have $191,110. Unassigned contingency, $632,361. Clubs and orgs assigned, $12,600. Fill fund, $15,000. And clubs and orgs travel, $9,000. Moving on to my report, we're currently waiting on the report from Cohen Resnick, our auditors, to be completed before audit committee is scheduled to meet. And later on, upcoming in new business, we're going to be role-playing what it's like being finance committee members. We have 6 supplemental requests to be processed during new business coming up shortly. This is just because at the moment, finance committee does not meet quorum. So we're going to be deliberating these requests in Senate just for today in a similar fashion to how we would deliberate during the annual budget process. So AS provides supplemental funding for clubs seeking additional funds, and these clubs have to be MIC recognized. But we also provide supplemental funding for clubs and orgs that did not have a chance to submit an annual budget, and this supplemental request would kind of be a working annual budget for that organization. 4 of the 6 clubs we're going to be going over are requesting annual budget related purposes. And while the numbers and requests might seem a bit intimidating, I'll be providing slides with breakdowns and the viewpoint neutrality funding limitations. Additionally, I'm confident in all of our senators' abilities to tackle these items. As senators, your goal is to feel empowered by the impact of your work and the responsibility you hold as your college representatives. And this is also a really great opportunity to be practicing Robert's rules and to learn more about AS funding processes. So I'll do my best to break down the slides, and I encourage you all to speak up on what you feel is fair and reasonable, as well as to ask for a clarification when needed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our Chair of Finance? Great. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on over to our Attorney General's report.
Hello. So this week is going to be a big week for us because now we're officially starting our committees. So for all the senators, make sure you just go back over the codes to look at the committee you're assigned to, read over it, make sure you feel prepared. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect this first week. Still going to get the hang of it. That's okay. Just read over it and get as ready as you can. And then also, as far as office hours, obviously we still don't have our office ready, which does make things a little bit more complicated, but we will have some different things that you can do. We're hoping that we can have a parliamentary procedure course that you can take this week to get credit or next week. And in addition to that, also I want to remind everybody that there's you can start submitting legislative referrals. So I'm sure all of you have different things that you ran on or different ideas, unique ideas that you think could make the university better. So you should start following through with that, initiating that process, make a referral, and then in the committees, we can start having some action, and things could be exciting. So thank you.
Wonderful. Any questions for our Attorney General? Perfect. Permission granted.
Permission to be recognized.
Permission granted. Thank you. Alrighty. We don't have any standing committees quite yet, so we'll go ahead and move past that, and we'll go to our Executive Director, Bailey, for his report.
Hi there. Good morning, everyone. Oh, gosh, that was loud. Hi there. Hope you had a great weekend. A couple quick updates for you. Tell you more about sport clubs. As the Vice President said, recruitment has been strong, and sport clubs has seen wild numbers. Last week, we had 244 people try out for 3 sports, men's and women's soccer and ice hockey. In case you didn't know, we've had an ice hockey team for over 50 years here. I always find that's amazing to find that we, like, because I think we're like right next to the sun, to have an ice hockey team, and a successful ice hockey team as well. This week, we have 5 more teams that are doing tryouts. We already have 856 waivers for those tryouts this week. Last year was a record-setting year for sport clubs. They had 1,746 people to try out or audition. They're already going to top that this year. They had 2,900 people to sign up just as interest emails just from Sportsapalooza and Meet the Clubs. So they are off to a great start, as is Outdoor Adventures. You heard David earlier today. All of their trips have sold out. I think you have rock climbing left and bungee jump. Just bungee jumping. I'm surprised that would not be first. No, anyway. There are some opportunities, though. Castaic Lake has a relationship with the university, and that's been renewed. So we'll probably have some pop-up experiences where you'll get to go up to Castaic Lake on a Friday and maybe do some paddle boarding or learn to kayak or just get wet. So hopefully you'll take advantage of some of those things. When David talked about the conference, was it 6 years ago you hosted the conference here? And it's all the Western states. So it's really funny to pull in, and they're all camping because it's Outdoor Adventures. So they don't stay at the Marriott or the Hilton. They bring their tents. So it's hysterical to turn into the parking structure and see the SRC field be like a campground. So it's really kind of an interesting conference, all college students. So I'm very proud of them for stepping up and wanting to host that again. So congratulations, Outdoor Adventures. Construction, as you see, we are moving along with construction. What you didn't see was the Children's Center. Over this weekend, their playground got replaced. So we were here on Saturday and Sunday with contractors getting their playground surface replaced. We're still on schedule to start furniture moving in next Monday. So if you've peeked in your windows, you've seen everything except the Vice President's floor still isn't done, but everyone else has nice new flooring, and we'll be start moving the furniture in on Monday, which is great. What else do I have? The other thing I wanted to share, I just wanted to build on what your Chair of Finance had said on viewpoint neutrality. It's going to be fun watching all of you, and Nick and some of you have done the budget deliberations. Viewpoint neutrality happened about 3 years ago. And what that means is when we look at budgets, we have to look at all of them the same way. If a club has been here 120 years, or if a club has been here 5 days, they must be treated the same. If a club has 3,000 members versus 5 members, we treat them the same. So if and this stems from I won't give you the name of the campus in Southern California that's a CSU that is not San Diego, but is north of San Diego. Their AS several years ago decided to fund an abortion speaker. But would not fund an anti-abortion speaker. So they made a decision based on their own values as to what they would fund and what they would not fund. And they got sued. And they lost. And they lost a lot of money. And because of that, the rule that we have now is viewpoint neutrality. So if a club comes and asks for a speaker and they have an opportunity to get a great speaker and they want $4,000, we would have to give all clubs $4,000 for the great speaker. So some of the things that your chair will tell you are kind of cast hard in stone when it comes to how we fund certain things equitably. So even though you want to give a club $1 gazillion, and you may have it, if you do that, you're making sure we do all the clubs the same way. So I'm sure she'll explain more about that, and you'll have tons of questions on that because we've worked on that for years and we still struggle with that sometimes. But I hope your semester has started off on a great foot. Like my Raiders, they're undefeated right now. So that's very good. You have college and pro ball back. So if you have anything that I can help you with when you're working on your legislative referrals or anything that you have, please, please, please just let me know. We want to make sure your experience here is a great one. All right. Have a great week.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Yeah, clap for that. Awesome. Sounds like sports clubs and OA are doing amazing. Love to hear that. And also thank you so much for explaining VPN to all of us. We definitely don't want to get sued. So any questions on our executive director's report? Great. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move over to our university advisor, Asia Butler's report.
Good morning, everybody. So just wanted to give you an update on our fall leadership conference. So in the past, our fall leadership conference has really focused on, I guess, like club recognition. So we still have an aspect where, let me just rewind. So we've shifted that focus a little bit. So we are going to focus more on emotionally intelligent leadership for this upcoming leadership conference. Alyssa Herrera is our activities coordinator. And over the summer, she did a training course, a leadership development training course. And part of that was to develop a proposal for a leadership program. And so she identified emotionally intelligent leadership as the topic that she would focus on for the training program. And so what we're going to be doing this semester, she's going to be hosting a series of workshops, and we're going to be using the leadership conference as kind of like a kickoff for that, where we'll be introducing the concepts of emotionally intelligent leadership and then having students break up into small groups and kind of go further in depth into the model. And then the workshops will be designed to help reinforce what was already discussed in the conferences. So usually at the Shine conference, there was a training that was required for all of the members to go to that focused on just various pieces of information that officers needed to know. So what we've done this year is we've actually created a Canvas course that's going to go over all of those things. And so the president and treasurer will do that Canvas course. So they'll still get that information. And then the leadership conference will really focus on leadership development. And so the date is October 14th. We'll be sending out all the information this week and updating our website so students can register. Some changes because it is mandatory for organizations to participate. I also felt like it was important for us to be flexible. So we prefer to have the president and treasurer attend, but we know that's not always possible. And so if the president or treasurer can't attend, they can send a proxy, and that proxy just needs to be a currently enrolled CSUN student. So they can send someone on behalf of the organization. The president does still need to register the organization for the conference. And as part of the registration process, they can identify a proxy for that. And so we're hoping that that would kind of create more flexibility. Also, we're scheduling it just from 9 till 1, maybe even 12 o'clock if we can get out by 12. But we don't want to take up students' entire Saturday. We know that folks got to work or just have other things that they would rather be doing. We think leadership is important, but we also don't want it to be a burden and something that there's resentment towards. It's like, I have to be here. So more information will be coming out about the leadership conference. But again, it's Saturday, October 14th, right now from 9 to 1. And any questions? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Hi, Aisha. Thanks for that presentation, or like your report. So just for clarification, the leadership conference is separate from the Shine conference.
No, so the leadership conference we're replacing it. So we're like rebranding it. So it's just so you'll see information for the MIC Fall Leadership Conference. So that's formally known as the Shine Conference.
Got it. Thank you. And also, I know you mentioned a lot of it will be like students can do the leadership trainings like over Canvas instead. Will we still be able to present a CSUN AS Finance 101 conference?
Yeah. So as part of the course, we do have a section in there for AS. So I can meet with you and we can go over that outline. And then if there's anything you want to change or add in there, there'll be a module for AS accounting in there, so we can talk more about it.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, Aisha Butler. We will now move on to our faculty advisor, Beta Ward.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great Labor Day and that your first 2 weeks of the semester are off to a great start. I am one of the faculty members who is fortunate enough to always have schedule adjustment. So like some of you and some of your constituents, I totally get that. So we're now sort of regrouping, sort of reorganizing things, dates, formulas, due dates, meeting dates, all those wonderful things that we have to do. So I want to welcome you all again to CSUN and to the fall semester. Faculty, as Diane Stevens mentioned, off to a great start, looking not only at the overall schedule for the campus, but other things that might be of interest to you. I am hoping that you will make sure you share these things with your constituents and your faculty. Let them know that you are AS members. I know I was fortunate to be able to welcome one of those members to one of my classes and allow that individual to introduce themselves to our students. Believe it or not, there are still students here who do not know about Associated Students or the many wonderful ways in which you interact with faculty governance. And that's an important balance that we have here at Cal State Northridge. So again, lots and lots of things going on. Faculty Senate coming up. You will be able to access that information online through their particular portal site and look at their minutes and follow up to different events we'll be having. Usually in January, we will be having a faculty retreat. In the past, and this is just a heads up, there has been space allowed for students to participate and present to faculty. So there are varieties of ways in which we interact with you all as students. So again, make sure that your faculty members know that you are AS members. They may give you some time to present a little bit about who you are and what you do. If you are recruiting for new representatives, that's important as well. Some of you all will be associated with specific standing committees on the Faculty Senate, and that is another way that you will be able to give input and represent your constituents on those particular committees. So your voices are very, very important, and I want to affirm that. Some of the faculty committees have started a meeting. I know last week Act Now, which is more of a politically oriented group, you will have a representative, I believe, working with Act Now, your lobby corps, etc. So engaging you all as important members of our society, not just as our campus. So again, I'm hoping that as you go through the semester, you will feel free to interject information from your own personal experience, your heritage background. We had Mexican Independence Parade this week. We have 9/11 observance today. So again, making sure that we know what your perspectives on those things are. And then finally, if you have literature, videos, those kinds of things that you would like incorporated into your courses, a lot of faculty are now using Canvas, and there are ways to connect that information. So again, share that with your faculty member as well as in discussions in class. And again, we look forward to a great semester with you. And thank you for welcoming me as well. I've been here for a while. I am both a formal and informal point of access to you if you ever want to talk about anything related to your academic success. Thank you.
As always, wonderful words of wisdom from Dr. Ward. Are there any questions or comments on her report? Great, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our unfinished business. So last Senate meeting, we were working on Senate representative appointments or nominations for our committees here at AS. So we still have 2 more. Just a reminder for these committees, you are not a voting member, but you will be asked just to kind of sit in on them, listen in, and then when you do come to Senate on Monday, you can share maybe a little bit about what happened during that meeting, since cabinet members aren't here at the table and really can't share exactly what happens except through our chief of staff. So are there any questions? Just go ahead and ask us or raise your hand. Let's see, are there any questions before we get started for nominating? Yes.
The Senate representative for the elections committee can't run for next year. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So if you do serve on the elections committee, you won't be able to run in this upcoming elections in like February, March-ish for the next year. Correct. Any further questions? Great. And also just to clarify, judicial court does meet on Mondays from 1 to 4. So if you have class, I would not recommend nominating yourself or nominating someone that has class then. They typically don't meet till 4, but it's just important to know that that is the set meeting time. Elections committee, I don't think has established a meeting time yet, so they'll work with your schedule for sure if you are nominated and selected. We'll go ahead and move on to judicial court. Are there any nominations? Yes, Senator Saravia.
I would like to nominate Senator Chavez.
Do you accept this nomination, Senator Chavez? Okay, wonderful. Any other nominations? Going once, going twice. Alrighty, Senator Chavez, if you'd like to provide an elevator pitch, a 1-minute thing as to why you think you're the best fit. If not, that's okay. That's up to you. Okay, no worries. Alrighty, any discussion? Oh, thank you. Alrighty, seeing no discussion, all in favor of I guess, nominating and approving Senator Chavez to serve as the Senate representative for Judicial Court, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? Alrighty, the motion passes. Alrighty, congratulations. Awesome. We will now move on to Elections Committee. Again, similar thing as I said earlier, there's no set meeting date or time, so that will kind of be determined once individuals are appointed to that committee. Yes.
May I ask for a point of personal privilege?
Yes. Any nominations for Elections Committee? Yes. Vice President Anderson brought up a good point. Typically, I guess, because if a lot of you do end up running again, maybe a senior or someone who's graduating this year could be on Elections Committee, since they aren't necessarily going to be staying unless they're staying here for grad school. But if not, that also is a great option if you are a senior. Any nominations? And I'm assuming they will meet probably once a week as well, the Elections Committee. Okay, I'm looking at Tiffany over there, so. You can also nominate yourself if you would like to be on the committee.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Are we able to serve on 2 committees?
Yeah. There actually is no set time yet. So again, once they do have like a full committee, and then obviously the Senate representative is nominated and approved, they will probably start discussing when everyone can meet. Yes, Executive Director.
I'm just going to put in a plug for the Elections Committee. It's a cool committee. You get great swag. You get to, wear some CSUN stuff. But I think one of the great things about the committee is what you're looking for is how you can entice other people to vote. So one of the things that the Elections Committee really does is you try to plan out how you'll get the word out as best possible. And it's funny because all of the CSUs really talk about, we had 4% to vote, we had 23% to vote. So there's a lot of smack talking amongst the CSU, and especially with the presidents, to say how many, well, I was elected with 15% of the vote. So a lot of times that's a really prestigious thing. We are up there. We're one of the top campuses when it comes to voter turnout. So anything that we can think of and ways that we can motivate people and groups to people to vote is really important, because we know that if you are a regular voter in your process here at high school and college, you're probably going to be very more involved civically when you move past. So it's an important committee. It's a fun committee. The bulk of the work is really in the spring semester, and you get a great shirt or something. So I would encourage you to do it.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Free swag. And also, we're always looking for ways to increase engagement on campus, and just how you are in these seats right now or in cabinet, wherever you end up, it's still important to be able to find new members to join leadership for the next year. Any nominations? Again, it's probably like an hour a week, if that, at least starting out in the fall. Yes, Senator Kaddish.
Can I just ask real quick, would you have to, if say you were busy during elections time, would you have to be out there promoting the election, like physically?
They actually have a street team.
So you aren't necessarily part of the street team, which the street team are the ones that are out there tabling, encouraging people to vote or, register to run in the elections. You'll just be going to the committee meetings, which is more maybe we'll say like the planning end of that. of the elections. Any other questions? Also, this counts as one of your office hours. So, Senator Kaddish.
I'll nominate myself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other nominations? Highly doubt it. Alrighty. Seeing none, is there any discussion? Great. See no discussion. All in favor of approving Senator Kaddish as a Senate representative for the Elections Committee, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Great. The motion passes. Congratulations, Senator Kaddish. Wonderful. We'll now go ahead and move on to new business. So now that we have our standing committees officially meeting this week, we do need to nominate and approve chairs for them. You should have all received an email from our Attorney General with regard to what committee you will be serving on this semester. So make sure that you obviously, if you do want to nominate yourself as a chair, that you're nominating yourself for the committee that you are in. We'll go ahead and first start off with External Affairs. Again, they meet Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Are there any nominations for chair for External Affairs? Yes, Senator Tippy.
I'd like to nominate Senator Kaddish for chair of External Affairs.
Wonderful. Any other nominations? Do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Wonderful. Any other nominations for External Affairs chair? All right, seeing none. Senator Kaddish, would you like to provide a quick little spiel about why you are the best candidate?
Sure. I suppose since I'm the only nominee, I'll just take a moment to reintroduce myself to the committee members and the rest of the Senate. So hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Kaddish. So I have been an AMC senator since the beginning of the previous term. I've previously been in the University Affairs Committee as both a committee member and the committee chair. I've learned a lot being in both of these positions. If chair, I plan for the committee to be ran very democratically and collaboratively, so everyone in the committee can have an active voice and have a say in how we proceed with things. I also feel very confidently that we will have efficient, productive, and hopefully even fun meetings. But yeah, I'm excited to work with y'all in this committee.
Thank you, Senator Kaddish. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving Senator Kaddish as the chair for the External Affairs Committee, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? Alrighty, congratulations, Senator Kaddish. 2 wins for you at this meeting.
I asked to be recognized?
Yes. Alrighty, we'll now move on to our Internal Affairs Chair nomination. So are there any nominees for Internal Affairs, which do meet Tuesday from 5 to 6? Senator Kaddish.
I nominate Senator Tybee.
Nice. Do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Wonderful. Are any further nominations? Alrighty, seeing no further nominations for Internal Affairs Chair, Senator Tippy, would you like to provide a quick kind of, again, spiel as to why you'd be a good chair?
I experienced parliamentary procedure last year in finance committee, and it's quite challenging, I'll be honest. And this is something where I really want to challenge myself and try to grasp it myself and just make it the best environment possible for all of the committee members. So I'm really excited to be taking this on.
Wonderful. Are there any discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of approving Senator Tivy as the chair for Internal Affairs, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? Great. Congratulations, Senator Tivy, Internal Affairs Chair. Alrighty, now we'll move on to our last committee, University Affairs, which meets Thursday from 5 to 6. Are there any nominations for chair? Yes.
I would like to nominate Ethel for chair of University Affairs.
Alrighty, Ethel, do you accept that nomination? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Any other nominations? Senator Kaddish?
I'd like to nominate Senator Dunn.
Senator Dunn, do you accept that nomination? Okay. Wonderful. Any further nominations? All right. If there are no nominations, Senator Akinwar, you can go ahead and provide us a quick little 1-minute kind of speech on why you would think you'd be the best candidate for University Affairs chair. And you can use the microphone, please. No? Okay, all good. Senator Dunn, would you like to provide a quick spiel, I guess? Wonderful. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, so we're going to go ahead and we'll put up one candidate and then do the other. You obviously only get one vote. You obviously only get one vote, so please do not double vote. Okay, all those in favor of nominating or approving Senator Akinwar as the University Affairs chair, please raise your hand. Alrighty, all those in favor of approving Senator Dunn as University Affairs chair, please raise your hand. Yeah. Any abstaining? Alrighty, congratulations, Senator Dunn, on winning, or not winning, but being approved as University Affairs chair. Congrats. Alrighty, amazing. So again, those committees will start this week. So we'll kind of get you situated with everything. We're now going to move on to our supplemental funding requests, but we do need to enter committee of the whole. So, so is there a motion to enter committee of the whole? Vice President Anderson.
I move to enter committee of the whole.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there a second? Senator Serbia, thank you. Any discussion? Great, seeing none. All those in favor of entering committee of the whole, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? Excuse me. All right, the motion passes. So I think so our chair of finance will be kind of going over each supplemental funding request before we approve anything. So I will turn it over to her for the first one, which is from Indian Student Association seeking $10,000 for Namaste Matadors event and the annual budget.
Yes, thank you so much, Paige, and hello, Interim Finance Committee. Yeah, so basically the slides, Leslie and I worked together, and we put them up within Finance Committee. Anytime we have supplemental requests, we tend to like visualize it, make a PowerPoint slide just because they're larger numbers and we can easily wrap our heads around the numbers. So these slides, I'll just break it down. It's the name, the date of the event taking place. And this one is 2 supplemental requests into one larger requests. The reason being is that this group originally submitted one, but then they decided they actually wanted an annual budget as well. So they're actually seeking 2 supplemental requests. And Leslie and I just cut and copied the main description of the request into this large text description. I'll just go ahead and summarize it. So the Indian Student Association is seeking 2 things. The first request, 139, being a Namaste Matadors event. This is kind of just a event to welcome back new and current Indian students on campus and provide them with the insights of the club and also about CSUN. A lot of the items they're requesting for this, which we'll see in a moment, are giveaway items. Within our code on finance, it's kind of tricky with giveaway items. We don't really do shirts or things like that, but we'll be able to deliberate in a moment. The second item is more of operational items required by the club. And the total request is $10,000. Madeline, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so this is the first part of the request. This is for Namaste Matadors. So this is a one-day event, which as per our code on finance, we can only fund $3,000 maximum, which is great because they're only requesting $1,000 anyways. So first they're asking for a room rental. They want a room rental for 3 to 4 hours on campus, mainly for about 120 to 140 people. It's going to last about 4 hours and they have not yet reserved the room. They're currently in talks with reservations and event services for the room, but they estimate that they're going to need $350. We currently don't have like a max amount of dollars we can fund for room rentals. It's just kind of based on what seems fair and what seems like pretty appropriate. In my opinion, I think $350 is pretty reasonable for a 4-hour room rental, especially with 120 to 140 people, but we can deliberate on this. For advertising, they want to request a banner for the club with the club name, logo, and contact details. This is also going to be used for Indian Student Association club flyers. So for this item under advertising, we can fund $200 max. So we can deliberate the amount we want to fund them, but $200 is going to be the maximum amount for just advertising itself. They also mentioned the use of a banner. I didn't write it in, but a banner we can fund $150 max. So total for that item would be $350 max. And lastly, for giveaway items, we can also deliberate the amount we want to fund them. But they're asking for things like small flag miniatures, books, pens, stickers, and things like that. We don't fund things like this, but what we can do instead, we could give them $300 for bookstore incentives. So though I did provide these numbers and the maximum numbers of the amounts we can fund, we can deliberate the amount we want to fund them without exceeding the maximum limit, of course. So we're just going to do this first part first for this first request, and then we can move on to the second part of the request after. And then Madeline will edit the slides in live time, so then we can see the amounts we're working with.
Alrighty. So again, I'm so sorry, excuse me. For the first request, again, as a chair of finance went over, they're requesting $1,000. So is there a motion? Okay. I'm so sorry. Okay, is there a motion? Okay, Executive Director Bailey.
Hi there, everyone. I would make a slight suggestion that since the chair of finance knows what can and can't be funded, typically what would happen, I'll back up. The reason why there's not quorum is there's a vice president's designee to the finance committee, and that person had been here for 29 years and she just left. So the vice president is trying to find a replacement for that person. What the finance committee can do until then is they could make a recommendation. They can't vote, but they can make a recommendation that you could listen to or not listen to. So I think it may be easier if the chair of finance on some of these, if you have a recommendation, just to say that, you know, they've asked for $1,000, but we would recommend they get funded X because of this, and then let the deliberations go from there. One thing about room rentals, for those of you who are involved with clubs and organizations, the USU does give you a free rental of room, but it's really for your meetings. So if you have a weekly meeting, you can get a room for that. But if you're doing a special event like this and you need a larger room like this in AV, it will cost you the direct charges. So I agree that those charges are reasonable. And I think a recommendation from the chair would be a great way for us to move them on.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, so for advertisement, I want to recommend them $200 for advertisement, banner, as well as the bookstore incentives. These 3 items are all like VPN items, and they're clearly defined in our code on finance. So usually when clubs ask for advertisement or things of that sort, we all give them $200 each, regardless of how large the club is or how long it's been established for. So the only item we can deliberate is for room rentals. I think $350 is reasonable. If you guys all think that's reasonable as well, I'm going to just go ahead and put $350 in and fund them the full amount for room rentals.
Senator Tibby.
May we also consider funding them a banner under advertising? They do specify a banner, which would be funded up to $100 for. And then the $200 in addition for marketing materials, which is the club flyers. I think they just didn't separate the 2 lines.
Yes, thank you so much, Nick. I wrote it down in committee deliberations for the 350 total, 200 for advertisement and 150 for banner. It's just a bit small, but it is there. Thank you for bringing it up. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and these are more miscellaneous items pertaining to their annual budget related items. The first item they're requesting for is campus facility / place rental or equipment rental. It's a bit tricky because these are kind of like 3 separate things, but they just put into one funding item. The description for it says that they want to host engaging cultural activities, certain events, Garba Festival, Diwali Festival, Holi Festival, that require nearby places on campus as it is easily accessible to students. They're requesting $3,500 total from AS. This one's a bit tricky. Patrick, do you have any insight on how we should break this one down?
Yeah, for an annual budget, they would typically, clubs typically ask for their meeting spaces. It looks like they're asking for special events, but there's anywhere where it talks about how that special event would be funded. So I would suggest to the committee that you would look at what would be their rental needs for their regular meeting, which would be probably 0 because the union gives that to them free. And if they wanted additional events or special events they were having to come back specifically once they've worked out what that cost would be on campus, because I think $3,500 is kind of like a shot in the dark there. There's not a lot to go on backup for that. So
okay, got it. It's just usually that like student clubs and orgs only have 1 approved supplemental funding request per semester. If this gets approved, are they able to submit another request afterwards?
Well, part of the issue is they should have done their annual budget last year.
Yes.
So they put themselves in this position. You could always look at other funding requests that they get and make exceptions if they do that.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So we'll just move on past this. For advertisement and promotional costs, they're requesting $1,500. I know they also requested advertisement underneath the first part of the request, number 139. But that one's kind of processed as part of their 1-day event costs. And so I don't think this would be a violation of our code on finance. I would fund this one $200 advertisement, no banner because banners funded in the first request and banners are supposed to be reusable. But I would do the $150 for a tablecloth. They're not requesting a tablecloth, but sometimes during deliberations, if like we want to be generous or like kind of predict the club's needs, we would fund them a tablecloth. It's just kind of up to what our Senate committee today thinks is fair, or if you would want to do that. But yeah, they're also seeking speakers / performance programs. They're requesting $1,500. And this is to illuminate India's heritage, arts, and professional landscape. And this is going to be a public event.
Can you make the screen larger again, please? It's really, thank you. Keep it like that.
This is going to be, so for the speaker and performance program item, though they're requesting $1,500, normally for single day events, we can do up to $3,000. But because of their language, it's not really specific enough that it's going to be a single day event. It sounds like they're more of small events. We can only fund $400 for one speaker with a max of 4 speakers. So the maximum they can receive for this item is $1,600. $1,600 max, but they're only requesting $1,500 instead. So we could fund this item completely if you all think that that's appropriate to do so. Matthew?
Just a question in general. What happens if they don't use up the money allocated to them? What happens to the excess?
Yeah, of course. So technically they are funded that money, but like we don't, like when students are approved money, we don't like give them the money like up in the form of a check or like in cash, just because like, let's say we do give them $200 for advertising and we're like, here's $200, they could go off and they could just buy like pizza instead with that $200. And so technically we do like kind of credit them this money, but like until they come back with the receipts, they don't get reimbursed, right? And so if they just don't come back to get reimbursed, we just have the money in our contingency. Patrick?
Actually, all accounts get swept at the end of the year. And so any, 2 things. One is these funds will come from unassigned contingency unless specified for something else. Once you allocate those funds, they're allocated, but they are not spent until they actually come through and use them. If we would give them, for example, $3,000 and they would spend only $15, at the end of the year, all of that is swept back and it goes back to the finance committee to reallocate for the next year. So it doesn't go away.
Okay, awesome. The last item they're requesting is for miscellaneous expenses. They're requesting incidentals, permits, insurance, anything unanticipated that might come up. Usually we don't fund them, like we don't give them really much cushion room and we don't fund items like this. Sometimes maybe insurance, but I think that this is something they would have to talk to Daniela from risk management about. So I would say we should not fund this for now. Sometimes we do fund things like parking passes for guest speakers, but they didn't request that in their speakers/performance programs item. So we're just going to move on past that. Awesome. So yes, so for campus facilities, the first item, we need more detail. We're not going to fund that. Second item, advertising and promotional costs. This is where we can deliberate. Would you guys like to fund them $200 for advertisement in total, just for their operating budget expenses, or $350? This would be advertisement as well as a tablecloth. Nick?
I think just advertising is appropriate. I can't really see someone spending $150 on a tablecloth. I'm not sure if that's something that's defined in the Code on Finance. But just from my opinion, I think it should be advertising only.
Got it. Thank you. Yes. So when it's requested, we usually give them $150 for a tablecloth, and an additional $150 for banner if they ask for it. They didn't ask for it here, but if that's something you guys would like to do, we could do that. But I do think that's fair too. Okay, so $200 for advertising it is. Moving on to the third item, speaker/performance programs. They're requesting $1,500. The maximum we could fund this is $1,600. So we could fully fund this item if you all think that is appropriate. Madeline?
I just want to say, as Yvette types, I'm going to be going in and out just so it refreshes. So just say no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no discussion on this item, I think it's, Nick?
I think just one speaker is appropriate. They didn't define it, and it's a large sum of money. If, like you were explaining regarding it's not a check, we could still fund them $800, and if they end up spending it on 2 guest speakers, then they'll just redeem it later. So that is a possibility.
That's a good comment. Kiri?
I do have a question. For the speaker, does that money also go into like the room and board? Because I do know that the other supplementary requests included room and board in their request. So would this one also be with all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. This $400 would be just for a guest speaker. However, if their request was more specific and they're like, they want to do a guest speaking event, like it's a 1-day thing, that money allocated, they could kind of, it's kind of up to their discretion if they wanted to use like all 3,000 towards like rooms or like 3,000 towards a guest speaker. But in this case, it's just the $400. Just a side note, like kind of this discrepancy or like how finicky it is with the language and the difference in amounts of funding that you could receive has been kind of like an ambiguous topic for finance. And so Leslie and I are going to be working this year to make that process a bit more transparent, a bit more fair. And I think we're going to be experimenting with IT if we can do this through check boxes and make it mandated questions during the annual budget request itself. But thank you.
I do agree with Senator Tibi. I'll say that they were not as clear as possible, and it will be good to just fund for one speaker than for max, because I would prefer for them to actually explain why each speaker will be like good for the performance programs.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I do think that being a bit more transparent would be more beneficial for us, especially if we're the ones funding them. So yeah, I guess a discussion point now. Oh, Melita?
I think so. As you mentioned, performance programs. This is just a thought. Maybe in Indian, like with the cultural context, they might bring singers or other like performers, which would mean there will be more than one speaker. And that's why they're not clear with the language, but that's why it could be more than one speaker at a time. So that's what probably they couldn't yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. That's a good point to mention. This group does tend to put on more events. But I think that because they weren't really too specific about their language, we could maybe not fund it the full amount requested, as both Nick and Lorena mentioned. And instead, after this request is processed, I can reach back out to this organization and like kind of communicate it a bit more with them. And then based on like this situation, maybe we could process a further supplemental request if they wish to do so. Okay, awesome. I guess right now the current two options are, do we want to fund this group one speaker for $400 or do we want to fund them $800 for two speakers? Nick?
I'm going to say one for now, in my opinion. I feel if every club was funded for additional speakers, whether or not they wanted to redeem it or not, I feel like that would allocate for it a huge sum of money.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. We do have a lot of money. We have about like maybe $600,000 in our unassigned contingency, but I guess it is like a principal matter then. But yeah, so we could just put in the 400 and give them a small amount, and that way you would incentivize them to be more clear in their future requests.
And they could submit a supplemental request later
Exactly.
on.
If it's appropriate, we can process that. All right. I'm going to put 400 here in then. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. This is their last item. They're just requesting security and safety measures. I'm also not going to fund this at all. This would just be a case-to-case basis, and if it really does seem necessary. Okay, and that's about it for the first supplemental request, which was a pretty heavy one. We can move on to the next one now. Second one is from Behavior Ecology Evolution Research, or the Beer Club. Their request, they did not receive an annual budget this year, and their requests are seeking a scientific talk at the weekly biology colloquium with the research visiting from another university. So it seems like it's like going to be a day event, or at least something along the lines of they're going to have a professional speaker. Next slide. Okay, awesome. Yes, so the first three items, travel reimbursement for a speaker, honorarium, and lodging for a speaker, that seems like it's going to fall under a one-day event thing. So that one we can fund at $3,000 of maximum. So yeah, so travel reimbursement for speaker, $400. Sorry, let me adjust this. There is no there's no max limit for that. Okay, so honorarium. This is the cost for the speaker. They're seeking $250. Lodging, they're seeking $400. Okay. There we go. All these amounts seem pretty reasonable to me. I would probably encourage, like, we would fund this all of these events, or all three items, just because this is a one-day thing and it certainly falls under 3,000. Patrick?
I don't know where they're staying for $400, but it's a really nice hotel. I would think that their speaker could lodge on campus in guest housing, or if not, could pick one of the other hotels in the area, which are much less than that. I think the most that we would do for lodging is probably the per diem that we do for all of us, which is $250 maximum for lodging.
I know that when we do supplemental funding requests for travel, or I mean STAR, for students, at least the max is 120 per night. Is that the same rate for?
It's because they share.
Oh, I see.
125 is because we assume that you're sharing a room. If it's a speaker they're bringing in, and it doesn't look like they have a lot of detail because it doesn't say where the speaker's coming from. If they're coming from Vegas, it's not a $400 flight. Yeah, so I think it lacks specificity. And typically, just so you know, what the chair of finance does is the chair of finance invites these people into the finance meeting, and we get to ask them lots of questions and find out what they do or don't know to make our best educated decisions. So in this case, we haven't had the opportunity to speak with them. This could be just something they put down on paper and turned in, which is what it looks like.
Yuri?
I do believe that 400, if it's a flight, is a little bit much. If they're coming from somewhere like close, like let's say somewhere in the West Coast, I don't think it should be that much unless they're road tripping. But if they're I think we should hold off on the reimbursement of travel just to see where they are coming from and what I guess what airlines they are taking, because I know airlines have typically different pricing depending on where and what day and what time. So I think maybe we should hold off until we know where the speaker is coming from.
Got it. We could hold off, or we could just throw out a number. Anyone could give a starting number off, and we could just see if that's reasonable, just because this might be a larger request and it might have to come back to Senate. And if this is something we could just process right now, we should just do so and get it done with, as long as that number is reasonable.
Then I think 250 is a good starting point.
Matthew?
Well, I was just going to say, I just looked up some flight costs to Vegas, and you could do it within 150 for a round trip.
Okay, sure. Lorena?
Yes, so I do know for a part that they do bring speakers, like professional speakers from other parts that do have a lot of experience and are able to share their professional background and any other presentation they can give. So I'll say, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, what we can give, but it will be good for them to do another request and see like where they're actually coming from and why they're asking that much money.
Lena?
Sorry, I just had a question. So if we gave them $400 and they don't spend that much, that like the money left over, it's still just in our account?
Yes.
So, okay, so I feel like if they fill out the request for $400, they're probably already looking at flights for that speaker, and maybe it is around that cost. Just to keep that in mind.
Yvette, can I ask a question? Yep. Is this just for 1 day of lodging or like one night, I'm assuming?
The assumption is just for one night, just because they did not specify.
Okay.
And this tends to be like a common issue that's like, despite how great we create a form, there's always going to be an issue that people will just be very vague or maybe not be so effective in their response on our end. Yeah. Nick?
For clarification, can the STAR fund be requested from only once per year by a club?
STAR fund tends to be like just for an individual. So if you're like a student and I'm interested in like creating a project, or my research paper gets approved by a certain conference, that would be STAR funding. And so it tends to be like just myself or maybe a lab partner doing that. But when it comes to supplemental, students can also request leadership conferences, and that would fall into the supplemental request. So let's say I have a club and we have a leadership conference coming up in Colorado. I would put in a supplemental request for that and just be like, my organization wants to attend this leadership conference. That one we can fund up to 4 students, 600 max, just like how STAR, we can fund like 1 or 2 students, 600 max as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So for travel reimbursement for speaker right now, we're at like 150, 200, and 400. Should we take a vote on it, or we can meet in the middle and say 250 then? All right, well, thank you, everyone. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's a few more items. I'm sorry. The reason why I kind of skipped over these items, biological field trip number 1 and 2. Although it sounds so cool, a club field trip to a biological significant site, including camping or lodging. Unfortunately, we do not fund any of these things, including food, gas, or lodging, just because these are like off-campus items. And these are like kind of more leisurely items. We wouldn't really fund any of these. Patrick?
And we do fund events like this through IRA. So in addition to all the fun things you're learning about finance today, there's also another funding board called IRA. It's instructional related activity. So you pay that in your tuition. I think it's like $21. That goes to a board, which is chaired by students. And if there's a professor that's having a field trip and they're taking their class to see the architectural ruins of East LA, they could actually ask for a bus, pass, the whole bit, and IRA would fund that through an annual budget request. So there are other avenues that they could get funding for a trip like that.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Patrick. Matthew?
I'm just curious. I might be a little confused about our IRA, but wouldn't IRA have to be attached to a course rather than a club?
It can be attached to courses. So like a good example of that is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. They in turn are a club, but they also are there are many projects that happen within that department that would include those club members and individuals. So this, for example, a professor could submit this and say that there's maybe 5 courses that the students from the club are in and how it relates to that.
Do they always get like a fund, like do they always approve the fund requests, like even if?
Not always, because this past year people asked for $4.2 million and we only had 1.5. So just as you do here, they go through each request and each line item and make their best recommendations.
Nice. Thank you, everyone. Okay, the last item here is for the honorarium. They're seeking $250. I think it's fair to give them $250 as well, just because like usually a large guest speaker is already $400 max. And the total for all 3 items as part of a one-day event is just $650, which I think is a fair amount. If everyone is also all right with the $650 funding for the beer club, we can go on to the next slide, please.
I'd like to clarify, Yvette, didn't we decide on $250 for lodging?
Oh,
right?
Oh, correct. It was $250 for the night. Thank you so much, Paige. Yeah. All right, thanks for catching that. Okay, next one is Women's Research and Resource Center at CSUN. Patrick, can you give a little bit of background on this club?
You get all the fun ones today. So the Women's Research and Resource Center is a very valuable service at CSUN. And when it was started, the AS helped start it. Because of that, the AS has had a history of supporting this group before VPN came around. So it's important for you to note that you do not fund other centers. We do not fund the Glenn-Amatsu House. We do not fund the Black House. We do not fund the Pride Center. We do not fund the VRC. So I say that to you cautiously, because I would not want us to fund one group and not fund the others, and then be in a horrible lawsuit like that other campus was in North County. So I would look at the actual requests specifically and see what we can fund. And then I would encourage the chair of finance to have a more in-depth conversation with Shira. We do not fund departments. So this is really funding a center that's kind of in an academic department. So it's a slippery slope is the best thing I can say. But I think looking at the detail would be helpful.
All right. Thanks so much, Patrick, for that. I do want to note another supplemental request that's going to be coming up is the F Word Club. The advisor is the same Shira Brown person. And so there could be a little bit of overlap between the club receiving, or like two clubs underneath and managed by the same person receiving funding from AS, just because they could kind of double dip and like really collaborate with each other's budgets. So yeah, we'll just still be able to process this, or if not, we could look it over and then table it, and I could have a meeting with Shira Brown and we can kind of talk about where AS comes in terms of financial support for their group. So the Women's Research and Resource Center, it's a place where students can find campus and community and find resources and whatnot. They're located right next to the Glen Omatsu Cultural Home. And the main objective of this request is to seek supplemental budgeting from the AS. They're looking for things like Take Back the Night, the F Word, Gender Women's Studies Department, and Project Date. Project Date is also funded by AS. And yeah, we can go into the next slide as that'll provide us with more clarity. This is a really great example of a request, though, just because whoever submitted the request really broke down the amounts they're looking for. This would be probably a topic of conversation I would bring up at the Finance 101 taking place at Shine, just in showing examples of this, or if we could build this into the IT slide, that'd be really great. But anyways, so for event speakers, they're seeking 5 speakers, $900 each, room reservations, interpreters, and parking and advertisement. So this seems like we could fund it a maximum of $3,000 if this is a one-day event. They didn't really specify if it's a one-day event. However, we don't really have to deliberate. We can just kind of look at it, and I'll just have this conversation with Shira instead. But yeah, that Take Back the Night, Women's History Month, Aurora Literary Magazine, and supplies. We can just kind of skip over these since we won't be deliberating. Next slide, please. Advertising phone incentives. And phone is kind of a trickier item because people don't really request landline phones now for phone services, but we're just going to skip over that as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, awesome. The F Word. This was submitted by a student, but the F Word is also managed by Shira Brown. But this one we could process because this is a student-led campus organization, and they're also MIC approved. Their organization discusses and hosts events around feminism and also issues of social justice. They host weekly meetings and discussions about different topics, and they organize campus events to raise social awareness. Okay, next slide, please. Awesome. Okay, so event speakers. This would be a single day event, which we can fund $3,000 max, but luckily they're only requesting $100 and $1,600. Honorarium, they want to have 4 speakers. Paying them $200 each, which is pretty reasonable actually. Room reservation, $50 4 times. Interpreters, they're seeking 4 interpreters for 4 different events perhaps. Oh, yes. However, AS does not fund interpreters like through annual budget or supplemental related purposes. We just do chargeback forms just because we do provide, or it is pretty much a guarantee that we will pay for your interpreters, which is a really great thing in terms of accessibility. So the 2 things we could deliberate on is, do we want to pay them an honorarium? They were seeking $800 for 4 speakers, $200 each. I think that's fair. So I would say, yeah, okay, $800 is fine. And room reservations, they're seeking 4 room reservations for just $50 each. So the total for that item would be $1,000. That I think is fair.
Oh, Nick.
May I ask for clarification if the event that they're seeking the speakers for is open to the public or if it's just for their own club?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a VPN question. I'm not sure.
I'm sure it's open to the public. I think the thing with this one is that you would need to make sure that the event speakers, if you give a $3,000 for a single day event, it's to a organization.
Mhm.
So 3 organizations all can't be funded for an event, because then you're totaling like $9,000 instead of 3. So that's why I think these are a little more difficult. If it says an event speaker, is it an event that you've already been funded for, or what type of speaker is it? Because that event speaker on the top could not be in the Feminist Awareness Week or Women's History Month. So
Yes, just making sure we're not like double dipping. Okay, I suppose like if I'm going to meet with Shira Brown, I'll also talk to her about this organization as well. So we are gonna skip over this request as well. Okay, we can skip this slide as well as the next slide. Okay, we're gonna go into Beta Alpha Psi. I believe they are a business organization. Their request is quite big though. So let me just kind of read it on my end. So this organization did receive an annual budget from AS, but their leadership has been in discussion with Leslie and I about how the amount they're receiving is not going to like allow them to operate, or like what to the extent of their operation that they would like to operate in. But I kind of did mention to them that like AS supplemental funding as well as our AS annual budget is meant to supplement club endeavors and initiatives. And so there is some responsibility on the organization itself to like, also fund themselves either through fundraisers or seeking donors. I also believe they received a donation from David Bookstein of $10,000 very recently. Yes, okay, we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so they're seeking things like table sitting, supplies. Usually we do fund supplies if it sounds reasonable. They're looking for a display board with a folder holder, $70, markers $12, chalkboard $30. This is open to all students, I guess. There's no max on these items. It's just what you guys think is reasonable. They're also seeking funding for a mock Meet the Firms event, a room reservation of $200, parking passes. They're seeking $200 for parking passes. For 20 representatives. Printing for $10. That's an event, so we could fund them a maximum of $3,000. They're also seeking for technical meetings, 23 firms for $510, and printing. Professional development, candidates integration day, weekend seminars. It seems that a lot of times they're asking for parking passes so then they can get industry professionals to attend their technical meetings. And while I do understand that that's a great incentive to allow these industry professionals to come to campus, it's kind of a big request just for parking, since so much of it is consumed by parking. What are your thoughts on funding these items? Patrick?
I also think that their events don't total $3,000. When you look at what they specified for their event, for like mock Meet the Firms, 200, and $410. I mean, that's what they're asking for. I would not even suggest that $3,000 would be what they would be funded for.
Right.
That is the max, but without the detail or the dates, 410 would be a good gift.
Cool. Alrighty, I think 410 for that item is reasonable as well. Okay. We could just start off with the first item, table sitting, just supplies. They're seeking $112 for supplies. It's kind of a lot, to be honest, just for like markers and like a display board. Maybe $50 is pretty reasonable. We can pull it up. I'm gonna take a screenshot and put it in.
So in a perfect world, a supplemental would be something that you would get for something that you did not plan for in your annual budget. Okay. This is more like an appeal because they didn't like what they got the first time. So to me, a supplemental is like, oh my gosh, we have the chance to have Michelle Obama here. Can we get money for that? Not like, oh, we didn't get the money we wanted, so I need more for table setting.
All right. So this is just a screenshot from our annual budget that was approved by campus. It's going to cover a few items, but I'll just move it around. Okay, so they did receive money for Candidates Integration Day. I believe this is also an item that they're requesting additional funds for. I think they're trying to request the full $3,000 for that event. But they also have some money for technical meetings. This could cover room rentals, and it could cover like parking passes if they so wish to like use that money for that. Alumni event for 200, Matador Bookstore incentives 300, that's the max, banner max, and room rentals 250. So yeah. Asia?
I'm sorry. So can you clarify kind of like what is new in the supplemental requests that they're asking for that wasn't already previously funded?
I see. I believe the only new item is going to be the last item, weekend seminars 1 and 2. Everything else seems like they already have some money for it. They're just seeking additional funds. For table sitting, I put $50, but if this is approved, it's just going to be supplies $50. They could use that $50 for however they want. For mock Meet the Firms event, let's see. They don't have a Meet the Firms event actually in their annual budget. So they're seeking a mock Meet the Firms event for $410. I think that's fair. Technical meetings with recruiters and professionals. They were funded $1,600 for technical meetings already. I think comparatively, comparing it to other business organizations or like just student clubs and orgs in general, students don't tend to max out on the $3,000 when it comes to technical meetings. So even though this, yeah, I guess they're already funded, so we're going to put 0 for that. Professional development, parking passes, it's just kind of vague. I guess another 0. Okay. Candidates Integration Day, they're seeking $930. For Candidates Integration Day, they're already funded $1,000. So if they're approved this $930, they're going to have $1,930. The reason being is that they're seeking additional money for the rooms, workshop materials, parking passes, and printing costs. When I was in discussion with this group, they were mentioning how room rentals is like really tricky or it's like very expensive to book rooms, like large conference rooms. I'm not sure how true this is because I don't really run a student club or org, but this was their request.
They get free meeting spaces in Bookstein Hall. For someone to come and ask for more money when they have a budget, I would want specificity to say, you know, we only got $900 in room rental, but we need this, and show what that difference is instead of just throwing a number out there and saying, oh, it's hard. It's hard.
Yvette, and I don't know how much this has changed, but I worked at Academic Resources and Planning as a student assistant, and they have, I don't know how many they tend to have for their meetings and events, but they could always go to that department for other rooms as well. And usually they're basic lecture rooms and there are rules, but you know, as far as I know, those are free to students. Staff and faculty are just given priority.
Thank you, Madeline. Yeah, I'll be able to like email them and follow up and then just direct them to other resources as well. Professional development, $0. I'm sure they have a lot of money in their budget already. given for that amount. Candidates Integration Day. Yes, for this amount, they're already funded $1,000. $1,000 covers all these events, I'm sure. And if not, they can come back for additional funding. And then lastly, we have weekend seminars 1 and 2. They're seeking parking passes, rooms, workshops. They did not receive a weekend seminar 1 and 2 item in their annual budget, so we could fund this one. They're seeking a $440 maximum. And within that item, third description item, workshop for $200, it's kind of vague. Sometimes we do have workshops for like more technical groups like mechanical engineering where they request supplies, and that falls under workshops or workshop speakers. They're kind of vague here though. So I would probably just fund them to $240 just for parking passes and the room. Okay. Alrighty then, next slide, please. For Accounting 350, tutoring and midterms 1 and 2, this group or these few items requiring tutoring items, I know this organization is kind of unique in that they offer public tutoring for CSUN business students. However, they're seeking things like room reservations, where we already have provided room reservations for business organizations. So I'm going to fund them $0 for all 3 items. And worst case scenario, they can sit outside at the Bookstein hall tables and just do tutoring out there, like how I know the business honors program students do it. So $0 for all of those items. And then we have Teachers Appreciation Day. They're seeking a room rental for $250 and roses for $50 too. In our Code on Finance, we could provide students with roses as part of the tradition of the rose if the committee thinks it's appropriate. Do we want to fund this group $50 for roses? I don't think they need a room reservation for Teachers Appreciation Day. Lena?
I just think if this is something that they want to do for teachers, it should be brought out of their own personal account, also knowing that they got a $10,000 donation already. So I feel like they have the funds there to do like, because this is something that they want to do for teachers. So I think that they can fund that themselves.
Awesome. And thank you for providing your insight as like the business representative. Okay, awesome. So extranet reporting, they want extranet fees. We don't do that. This is like kind of like internet. We don't fund anything of that sort. Alrighty. So in total, this request is maybe about like $700. And yeah, and most of the items we're not funding just because they already received some form of it in the past. Okay, moving on to our last request. It's going to be for OA, and David kindly spoke earlier about it earlier for the Western Regional Outdoor Leadership Conference. Next slide, please. Only item requested is the speaking fee for Patagonia. It's going to be a $10,000 amount sought from AS. And just for comparison, in the past, I know when we did drag bingo, it was about the price, about $10,000 too. Patrick?
I think David could clarify, but I think Patagonia's regular price is about $25,000. So they've negotiated, was that what it was? Yeah. So they negotiated it down quite substantially in order to get her to perform.
I'd also like to mention that like though $10,000 does seem a lot just for like a one person to come here, usually when we have like large guest speakers, they tend to be a pretty pricey point. So I think that this is kind of fair, especially since this person is like representing the values of like inclusivity and diversity in the outdoor spaces. And so, yeah, if we want to discuss on this item, feel free to do so. But I'm all right with funding this item fully, yeah. Curious?
Is the 10,000 just for her to speak, or is it like room and board?
I think that's an all-inclusive fee. Nod your head. Yay.
All right, this one we could process more of like a traditional funding request or a supplemental funding request going to Senate. We could just like kind of informally vote on it. But yeah, is this $10,000 amount all right? If yes, please raise your hand, please. Okay. All right. No. And then abstain. Sorry. Okay. Yes, that was not very Robert's rules of me, but it seems that this $10,000 amount is pretty reasonable and fair. And so this 10,000 amounts will pass as a recommendation, and then we'll vote on it officially as committee of the whole. Alrighty, so that's about it for all of our supplemental funding requests. Thank you for sticking by. When we do our annual budget deliberations, it's a bit smoother just because we have the year to like really go into the code and whatnot. So there's a bunch of like finance jargon, and also we don't have like the speakers coming to like kind of pitch it. So it's kind of like a shot in the dark. But thank you so much for your patience. I'll be contacting the respective groups. And yeah, we can now like do the proper voting with committee of the whole. Thank you.
Wonderful. I really want to say thank you so much for being really patient today with all of this. Obviously, typically these requests do not end up in Senate. They'll end up in Finance Committee. And I have such a greater appreciation for Finance Committee now. Like unbelievable. It's insane. Alrighty. So what we're going to go ahead and do is obviously we did review a lot of the requests and we did update them and change them. So we're going to go ahead and ask for the updated amounts and just go ahead and vote on them with the new amounts. So can we get those added up? Alrighty. So for our first supplemental funding request, Indian Student Association has now been, well, on the table, I guess. Okay, so they have requested $10,000 and we are giving them $600. Is there a motion? Executive Director Reilly.
Could you entertain a motion to accept the total recommendations as amended?
Smart. Vice President Anderson.
Okay, we're going to try this. I move to approve finance supplemental funding requests 1 through 6 with the amounts decided on by the board.
Yes, University Advisor Butler.
Is that including the ones that were tabled or not including those?
Those are not including the ones tabled. Correct. Alrighty. And the ones that were tabled were item number 3 and 4.
Correct. The Women's Research Center and the F-Word organization. I'll be following up with them in a separate meeting.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Is there a second? Senator Serbia, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor of approving line items or the recommendations for line items 1 through 6, excluding line items 3 and 4, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? Great. The motion passes. Woo. I'm clapping for that one. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you again so much for your patience with this. I really, really appreciate it. Alrighty. We're now going to move on to exit the committee of the whole. Is there a motion to exit the committee of the whole? Senator Tivy.
I move to exit committee of the whole.
Wonderful. Is there a second? Senator Doe, thank you. Any discussion? Great. Seeing none, all those in favor of exiting committee of the whole, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? The motion passes. We'll now go ahead and move on to approve the recommendations of the committee of the whole. All those in favor of approving the recommendations of the committee of the whole, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstained? Great. The recommendations of the committee of the whole are approved. Wonderful. Okay, we'll now move on. We don't have any information items or discussion items. We do have a couple legislative referrals. I'll go ahead and read those off real quickly. Alrighty. Our first one is from Senator Dunn with regarding to an hour of no classes, and the request is to set a time daily or weekly to have an hour blocked out from classes. This would give flexibility for organizations on campus to meet and have events while allowing students free time to engage. A specific time can be selected by the committee. It is suggested to go to University Affairs, and it will go to University Affairs. Our next legislative referral is from Senator Ackenwar, and it is for student employee wages. The request is as follows. A large portion of CSUN students have a starting wage of $15.50 an hour. Given that the local minimum wage is $16.78, this is an inequitable practice. CSUN AS should formally recommend to university administrators and all concerned parties that the wage of student employees match the local minimum wage. With local costs rising all the time, I believe this should happen because the local cost of living is greater than the average state cost of living. This was suggested to go to University Affairs, and I will send it to External Affairs, excuse me. Sorry. Our last legislative referral for today's meeting is also, again, from Senator Ackenwar, and it is regarding unit residency requirements, and the request is as follows. I have a concern regarding unit issues and the requirements to live in CSUN student housing. In student housing, there is a requirement to have 12 units to live in student housing. That is okay, but it gets tricky because many times classes get canceled and it leaves the students needing to take another class. There are times when students take random classes to stay in housing, and sometimes that isn't fair, especially when a student is paying out of pocket. Classes are not free and everyone cannot afford to waste money. At the same time, it is very convenient to stay in student housing. With that being said, what can be done to prevent this from happening? This was suggested to go to University Affairs, and University Affairs it will go. Alrighty. Those were all the legislative referrals for this meeting. Again, you can submit those via our CSUN website. Are there any announcements? Vice President Anderson.
So today is photo day. Marketing will be taking headshots of senators, so please stay after to make sure your headshot is taken. We did talk about having a leadership photo of all of us between Senate and Cabinet, but it won't be happening today. It will be postponed, so we will let you know when that's going to be taken, but please take your headshot.
Awesome. Any further announcements from the board?
I have an announcement.
Yes, Chair Pennis.
On behalf of the Library Committee, on September 28th, Dr. Ellen Ochoa will be coming to CSUN. She's the first Latina woman into space as part of the Discovery mission endeavor a while ago. She'll be meeting with a few members of the local community, like middle schoolers and high schoolers earlier on in the day, but the main event starts from 4 p.m. and lasts until 5:30 p.m. This is open for the CSUN general public and community as well as guests, and it's going to be taking place here in the USU Grand Salon. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone that today is the last day to register for public comment. Probably very, very soon by 12 p.m. If you do plan, you can say public comment in person at the Board of Trustees meeting. You can say it via Zoom, or you can also submit a written comment as well that they will be given just via paper. Again, if you have any questions on that, you can reach out to me, Tool, or I. Any further announcements? Yes.
On your way out for senators, if you could just stop by to pick up one of these information needed sheets. We need some info for your stipends this week. Thank you.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Any further? Yes, Senator Kadish.
For office hours, do they begin officially this week or next week?
So your office hours do begin this week, but it's not going to be the same as they're going to be when we actually have the office. So we just expect you to set aside time where you're going to work on some Senate related things. Hopefully we'll have a parliamentary procedure course for you soon. And also if you can take that time to submit any legislative referrals or just review codes, anything like that.
Any further announcements? All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and turn it over to our Attorney General for the final roll call.
All right. Vice President Anderson. Senator Akananwar. Senator Bhavnagri. Senator Chavez. Senator Doe. Senator Kadish.
Here.
Senator Khan. Senator Mezabin. Senator Saravia. Senator Scheer. Senator Tybee.
Here.
Senator Toledo Carranza. Senator Dunn. Thank you.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Given that we are finished with the meeting, I adjourn this meeting at 11:21 a.m. Thank you all so much. And don't forget, we'll take our headshots outside.